Agriculture conservation of herbage. Conservation of herbage. Herbage can be conserved into two major ways, i.e. A. Silage. Reasons for conserving forage. To distribute available forage for animals throughout the year. To provide feed for the dry season. To ensure better and full utilization of available land. On a large scale, conserved forage can be sold as hay, etc. Hay. This refers to dry forage, mainly pasture grasses and legumes, e.g. Desmodium and Rhodes grass. Characteristics of a good hay. Good hay should be leafy since leaves are richer in fruit value compared to other parts of the plant. Should be prepared out of herbage cut at the stage near flowering, when the plant is highly nutritious. It should be green in color since the green color signifies that. Agriculture conservation of herbage. The moisture content of hay should not exceed 15% since high moisture may cause rotting. Factors affecting the quality of hay. The species of grass. Some grass species produce high-quality hay, since they can be easily turned and have nutrient content. Storage. Proper storage of hay by protecting it from rain and sunlight preserve the quality. Stage of cutting. The grass cut before flowering produces high-quality hay and that cut after flowering. Level of drying. Poorly dried hay becomes moldy and over-dried. Hay lacks fit. Procedure of making hay. Select a suitable plant species with high nutrient to be used in the making of hay. Cultivate the plant species on a good soil where it can obtain the required nutrients. Harvest the plant species just before flowering when it contains a lot of nutrients. Dry the hay to a moisture content of about 15%. Tie the hay in bales and prepare it for storage. Agriculture conservation of herbage. Stage of cutting. The grass cut before flowering produces high-quality hay and that cut after flowering. Level of drying. Poorly dried hay becomes moldy and over-dried. Hay lacks fit. Silage. This is the herbage cut before flowering and converted into succulent feed through the process of fermentation. It can be made from any succulent green materials such as sweet potatoes, vines, young maize, sunflower, sorghum, young Guatemala grass, and elephant grass. NB. High-protein foliage mixed with starchy foliage in ratio 3:1 give well. Balanced silage. The process of ensiling, making silage. Cut the grass when it is about to flower, and in case of legumes when they have formed pods. Chop the grass into small pieces of about 4 cm long that can be easily packed. Pack the material in the airtight chamber silo and compress it to exclude air. Add fermentable water-soluble carbohydrates like molasses, which provide energy to the microbe during fermentation process. Agriculture conservation of herbage. Fermentation process. The material is under fermentation through the action of lactobacillus bacteria. Organic acids are produced, and the major one being lactic acid. Lactic acid gives silage a good flavor, kills off the harmful microbes, and acts as a preservative for silage. The pH has to be low, between 3.8 - 4.3, and the temperature must rise to about 37.80 C to encourage fermentation by lactobacillus. If the temperatures are low, add more molasses into the silage. Add water to lower temperature in case they are high. NB. Low temperature can be avoided by partial drying of the material before ensiling to reduce moisture in the silage. Filling the silage chamber rapidly but compressing the material lightly. Sealing the silo immediately after the final packing to exclude air as much as possible. NB. Forage crops contain other species of bacteria such as Clostridium SSB, which convert sugars and lactic acid to butyric acid. Butyric acid gives silage a foul smell and makes it less palatable. Factors affecting the quality of silage. Type of grass and legume species ensiled. The stage of growth of the species ensiled. The speed of ensiling. Agriculture conservation of herbage. The moisture content of the material ensiled. The degree to which the temperature rises during ensiling. Reasons for making silage. For getting money. Increase total amount of herbage produced per unit area. Get feeds for use during periods of forage scarcity. Conserve forage in succulent form. Avoid forage wastage in periods of planting and abundance. Increased number of livestock that can be kept per unit area. Enables animals eat plant materials that they would not eat when fresh. Advantages of silage. It increases the animal's appetite since it is very palatable and so increases an animal's intake of a feed. It is easier to store than the same quantity of hay since it requires less space per unit weight to store. The losses incurred during ensiling are less than those incurred in making hay. Many species that the animal cannot eat in fresh form can be eaten when ensiled. Under proper storage, silage can stay for several years without Losing quality. Because the materials retain succulence, fire outbreaks during storage are avoided, unlike in the storage of hay. There is increased efficiency of feed use since the animal rejects. Agriculture conservation of herbage. Problems of using silage. Some nutrients are lost due to seepage in the process of silage. It's more laborious. The plant materials are difficult to compact effectively, and some rotting is inevitable. It is expensive in terms of preservatives used. It requires large quantities of materials for it to be economical. Poorly fermented silage has a bad smell that it may be introduced into the animal products. How to reduce losses during silage making. Careful harvesting of the material to reduce losses of leaves and contamination by soil. Proper sealing of the silos to prevent re-entry of air into the silo. Proper fermentation of the material to exclude oxygen and acid. Fermentation. Proper chopping of the material to ensure proper fermentation. Wilting of the material before ensiling to reduce the moisture content and reduce the possibility of rotting. Addition of additives to increase the energy supply for the bacteria and preservatives. Quick use of the material once the silo has been opened to reduce the chances of spoilage due to exposure to the environment. Standing forage. This is the cheapest, easiest, and most commonly used method of fodder conservation. This implies deferring cutting of the forage for the dry season feed. It, however, produces herbage of low quality, but it can be supplemented by addition of additives. Agriculture conservation of herbage. Forage utilization method. Continuous grazing. This is an extensive system of grazing in which livestock remain on the same pasture for a prolonged period. Advantages of the system. Fencing costs are reduced or avoided completely. It allows animals to have free access to any part of the pasture. No costs are involved in improving pastures. Disadvantages. It allows selective grazing, which can lead to pasture wastage. It encourages the build-up of ticks and internal parasites within the grazing place. It may result into understocking or overstocking as plant growth and seasonal conditions change. It's difficult to control diseases amongst animals since the system encourages communal grazing. Pasture improvement is extremely difficult as more people are involved in agriculture conservation of herbage. Advantages of rotational grazing. Provides a uniform developed pasture due to uniform grazing. It allows maximum utilization of herbage by avoiding selective spot grazing. Forage yield is potentially higher since pastures are allowed to regenerate than in other systems. Intervals between grazing allow for remediable practices like fertilizer application, weeding, etc. It's a good method used in the control of parasites like ticks, roundworms, and liver fluke. It reduces instances of overgrazing and undergrazing, hence controlling destruction of pastures. It makes management practices easy as animals are confined in one place. It allows flexibility in the use of pasture land since crops can be planted in the idle paddocks. It can allow higher stocking rate of animals. Controlled breeding is easy to practice since animals can be grouped according to sex. Disadvantages. Agriculture conservation of herbage. This is where animals are confined in structures/stalls where they are fed on fresh forage is cut on a daily basis. Advantages. Animals are protected from adverse climatically conditions. Feed taken in by each animal is easily known, hence easy to keep feeding records. It's easy to identify sick animals since they are in close observation. It's easy to collect manure from animals since they are confined in one place. Disease spread is reduced since animals are not in contact with others from another herd. There is high production since animals do not spend a lot of energy looking for pasture and water. Selective grazing and trampling on pastures is effectively controlled. Since animals are fed on pastures cut from the field, it's easy to carry out management practices on animals under the system as animals are under confinement. The system permits high stocking rates since a large number of animals can be kept on a small piece of land. Agriculture conservation of herbage. The system is applicable economically in places where market for milk is readily available to cover the costs involved easily. It may lead to loss of soil fertility if manure is not taken back to the pot or garden. The animals lack exercise, which can affect their health. Deferred grazing. This is where a certain paddock is set aside to allow the accumulation of standing hay which can be grazed on during periods of pasture scarcity. Pasture seeds are dispersed for pasture stand improvement. It provides herbage during periods of scarcity. It allows pastures to develop greater root and crown, which is important for subsequent regrowth. The pasture can be used in the control of soil erosion. It allows for natural establishment of pastures. Disadvantages. The pasture is not as nutritious as a fresh pasture, hence a need to supplement it. Requires a large piece of land for practicing deferred grazing. Does not permit high stocking rates. Strip grazing. This is where strips of fresh pastures are made available each day to animals. Agriculture conservation of herbage. The animals enjoy fresh grasses each day. The grass is eaten at its highest nutritive value. Allows intensive grazing, hence utilizing pastures efficiently. It is highly flexible since it may allow more than one activity on the land. Disadvantages. Requires more labor. Requires more skills in using an electric fence. Pastures may be destroyed as a result of overgrazing. Ground where animals pass is destroyed and lost since pastures may fail to grow there. See tethering. This involves tying the animal to a post with a rope such that it feeds within a restricted area. The rope may also have a metal ring that slides along a strong wire, supported by strong poles. Establishing a pasture. Clear the land to remove trees and bushes that may interfere with pasture. Puoth. Prepare firm for moisture conservation. Find to bring small seeds. Agriculture conservation of herbage. Select good quality seed for planting depending on the animals' needs and environment. Treat the seeds to ensure uniform and proper germination by scarification, inoculation, and pelleting. Sow the seeds shortly after the rains so as to take advantage of soil. Nitrogen made available by mineralization. Methods of sowing are drilling, broadcasting, and wool planting. Apply pesticides and fungicides to control pests and diseases in pastures. Carrying capacity and stocking rate. Carrying capacity is the ability of the forage stand to maintain a particular number of livestock units per unit area. This depends on the herbage yield and the animal's daily requirements. Stocking rata refers to the number of the animals maintained per unit area of land. In order to determine the carrying capacity and the proper stocking rate for a particular forage stand, try matter DM yields per unit area per unit time and lie. Weight of the animals to be fed are considered. Example. A dairy animal consumes 2.5 giant atta for every 100 body weight per day. The amount consumed by a Jersey weighing 400 live weight per year would be 2.5 x 400/100 x 365/1000 equals 3.65 tons dm. A Guernsey weighing 450 would consume 2.5 x 450/100 x 365/1000 equals 4.1 tons dm. Likewise, an Ayrshire weighing 500 live weight would consume. Agriculture conservation of herbage. MB/when the stocking rate is above the carrying capacity of the pasture, it is referred to as overstocking, and when it is below the carrying capacity, it is referred to as understocking. Some recommended stocking rates on different pastures. Grass. DM yield /haul/year. Tons. Carrying capacity livestock. Unit/haul. Napier grass. 2530.0. 57. Rolls. Grass. 10.9 15.2. 2.5 3.5. Nendicet area. 11.4 13.9. 2.5 3.0. Macaroni. Guinea. 9.9 15.9. 2.5 3.5. Stargrass. 5.39.1. 1.32. Kikuyu grass. 4.3 14.3. 1.0 3.0.